Okay, so we actually talked about this. We talked about ingestion. We talked about our bouncer, the the guy that is making sure that he's checking some rate limiting for us, right? And we talk about ingestion, the recorder that makes sure that we get a valid reason for the action that happens in our DB, right? And now, so what I just wanted to establish is that our Enqueue guide doesn't really queue in jobs, right? Doesn't queue in job. What it does just to make sure that it just give order on the queues that are coming to the DB, right? That's what it does. So just ordering, making sure that there is no chaos when queues or when jobs are coming to our DB. Jobs are the right words, right? And so this is what actually gives us access to availability of jobs in our TV, right? When you talk about jobs being available, right? This function here, in queue. So the name is in queue. That means it just what it does is just to in queue jobs, right, in our DB. So what that in queue now will entail is that so you just put in jobs that are already available that the guys have actually made access for us, right? Just put it in our job list, our job table in our in our DB, which is our Postgres, right? That's what it does, right? And so that's on the way. So this is just I've explained this thing before. This is just a basic setup. This setup allows us access to DB and connection, right? So that's what it does. So this async is what it is. So we are adding async because of the input and output we are expecting from this. So interacting with the database, right? This makes it public for other modules to use. Now is this is returning. This is borrowing this self, this our repo, instead of actually consuming it, right? Which is a best approach, a best practice, right? So now this is a new job, and this new job we declared it here in our model. So this is where we declared this job. So this is where we declare this our job model, right? And so these are the fields that this job consists of, and also this is our job status. So maybe I might come back to this later, or I might not come back to this, but just pay close attention. This is our job status, right? And this is where we implemented this job status, right? And so we still talk about because this job status came into play in this our queue of 18, right? So Rico, um, and so what this job now we have a new job. But let me still go back to this our model. So in our model here we have a new job, right? And we have job. So this I want you to talk about it, right? Um, a job, and let me use a normal example. So think about this new job like you went to a receptionist and they gave you a form to fill, or a receptionist of a company, right? They give you a form to fill. Then when you're done filling that form, right, um the form is what is the input that they need from you, right? Then think about this job as the registrar, right? It's just a registrar that contains all the information you have you made available from the form, and other default information that the company itself provided, right? And so that's the huge difference between this job here and this. So if you look at this, the fields here are quite different, right? They have different fields, and so the DB on its own gives us some default a default field, right? A default value that if you use it if you use it in our if you use it in our what's it called? If you use it in our I'm distracted, sorry. So this DB give us this job give us some default information that it just will be appended to this. So this is this is what the user have to input, right? And so when the job it just kind of so this is kind of what lives in our DB after the job goes live, right? And this is the input you have to provide for a new job, right? That's the difference. I hope I really explained this well, right? So back to our repo. So now back to this. So we are actually imported this here, actually here, right? So I imported the job status and so the job here, right? And um so this is we are trying to get the fields, right? We want to use the fields of this job, right? We want to use the fields of this new job and fill it ourselves because um, obviously we are providing information of the contents, right? Based based on what what this guy provided, right? So this content is based on what this our Enqueue guy provided, right? So that's what the basis of this field will look like, right? So this is the content, right? And so the this is returning is just returning an ID, and so why it's returning an ID is because we really need the ID later on, right? Because um at the end of the day, this ID is what we will use to query any other informations, right? Like this now for um UI side of this project, right? The ID is very, very important for querying if it's a validator, right? It's a source of truth. Is something that tells us that okay, there is a job was existing already, because an ID cannot return if a job is not existing on our DB. And so the ID that will be returned is the ID of that job role that is existing currently, right? And so the ID is kind of a source of truth that okay, something is already existing, and this is the ID of what is existing, right? You can think about it like that. And then this is just storing our query. So we are just using this instead of query as because we just need one. We are not trying to print a lot of information. Just want to print just an ID. And so this is just the query, right? What we are querying, and I just want to talk about this. So this job status um is very, very vital, right? So this is kind of telling us the current state of the job, right? It is just telling DB okay, the current state of the job is this, right? In fact, let's go back to our model. So this is our model here, right? and this is where our model match this. So it's still saying if job status dot queued is equal to queued, and this repo. So this is trying to return the string the string equivalent of this for the DB, right? That's what is happening here. That's what is happening here. So this is just fetching only. We are just trying to fetch only one information here, and the information here is just the ID, right? And we are running. We are telling the um, we are just saying that we need this query to run inside of this pool. This pool we just created here, we had access to, we borrowed, right? And you're expecting to return an ID. So we are trying to access the ID from this reg, because this reg is where the query is being stored, right? No version of the query is being stored. So we just want to access the ID only. And so this enqueue now, enqueue enqueue ads, they are kind of conveniences. I call it conveniences. They kind of um just give you kind of a bit flexibility to do some things, right? I think what we didn't still add here is in queue priority, kind of prioritizing which one should go in first, right? Um, so what this thing is just saying is just that we want you to, we are creating a job that will run immediately, right? So you're saying that this job is running immediately, right? And of course we are using the enqueue. So everything that is happening here is just a this is the whole stuff that is happening. Like the enqueue is what is queuing the information. But now we are trying to give more flexibility, right? Flexibility in the sense that maybe for some reasons you this is what you want to happen immediately, right? And which can be the priority. And this is what you want to happen immediately. This is the job that you want to run immediately. You want this job to run immediately, and this is what is checking that information for you, right? And with this access, right, we are telling the queue in queue to, this is the jobs you should focus on, right? And then all of these prominences are just returning, and they are still returning an ID, right? And this is just saying, I want you to create um a job that will run in the future, right? And this guy here, uh this guy here gives us access to it. So um maybe let's say that you want a 60 seconds delay, right? Um, Maybe for any reason, you want this job to run 60 seconds after, right? So you don't want it to run immediately. So this will give you access to, for this job to run 60 seconds after it's available, right, on the queue. That's it. That's what it does. And then this gives you access to create a queue that you know the exact timestamp. I mean, let me still go back. This one is just like you're setting an alarm, right? You're setting a specific alarm that you want this thing to run by this time. Like you want this thing to run by this time, or 60 seconds after, or 1 minute after. You're just setting an alarm for this. So when this time comes, just right. But this now is giving you this queue, and you already know the timestamp, right? You already know when this thing should run, right? Um you know that by this time is when you're expecting this thing to run, the exact timestamp, right? You don't want to calculate the delay, because here already you have to do some calculation, delay calculation here. But for here, you just know the exact timestamp, right? If you don't want to calculate the delay, right? You just know, okay, by this time, just queuing or just queuing this stuff, right? It's not something that should happen immediately. You know the exact time, full timestamp. But here now, there is more like a calculation happening, right? So that's just the major difference between this, and all of them are just waiting for the DB, right? So because so let's go back to this our queue. So this queue already, this queue already is why we are not returning any error here is because the queue this in queue here, which is the main organ, is returning an error. So what these things are doing is just that the DB have already approved that the job is ready to be queued, right? It's going to be queued, right? Then what this one does is just to give. So what this one does is just to make sure that it's just to make sure that there is okay. Sorry. Okay. So what this does basically, right, is just um to make sure that there is an arrangement. There is a priority check kind of, right. This the you know when this and this should run, right. It's not something that should happen immediately. But the validator, if there's an error already or not, happens in the queue, in queue already. So these ones don't really need to check if there's an error or not because they don't really, they are not the ones that ran the SQL, right? The SQL was run here. Right? So what these ones are doing is just to make it a little bit more flexible for us, right? This job ID, right, is still borrowing the self, right? It's borrowing same um the same connection we created above, right? And then this is actually having access to our ID, UID, right? And we are returning jobs specifically. So what this is doing is that is fetching is checking if this UID, right? If the UID we have is kind of trying to get the job of this UID. Like it's fetching the job of the UID, right? Because in the queue here, this queue created returns it returns a UID for us, right? An ID for us, right? Then this get get job function actually use the UID to get the job for us, right? That's what it does. So if the job exists, right, return the job for us. Return the job for us. If the job does not exist, return nothing, right? That's what this is doing. So it's going to our job table with the ID that we give to it to check if there is a job existing under this ID. If there's a job existing under this ID, just return the job for us. If you want to check the status, you want to check anything about it actually, right? And this can come in handy when you want to work with the UI. Okay. So this list job is just something that gives admin access to filter the job table, right? To filter the job table and interact with the database directly. And so you might want to filter the queue status cursor created. So this cursor created is a kind of um so this cursor ID and cursor created at are the same thing, like they are the same thing. So this cursor created at what the cursor itself, what it does is that it gives us access to paginate, right? And the pagination is that it's it comes in like, so let's say that you the current page you're on, you maybe the current page you're on has, for example, let's use a very basic example we all know. So let's use Twitter, right? So that sometimes you'll be scrolling on Twitter field, on X field, right? And you see a button that say click for more fields or click for more information. Like to see more fields, just click on the button. So if you click on the button, it will reload, right? So when it reloads, it starts from the last thing you saw to, like, it reloads from the last thing you saw to give you other fields, right? That's exactly what this cursor does. It kind of gives you access for you not to um for you to kind of paginate, right? Um that's the word that's coming to my mind here. To try kind of paginate actually. So like the Twitter is a good example of what this cursor does. Cursor does. Now um this create art is the time this thing was actually created, right? And the ID is the ID of the queue, right? So sometimes the creation of two queues can have the same creation time, right? And no two queue can have the same ID. So we are using both to make sure that we there is no duplicate, right? For example, that Twitter field, right? When you click on see more info or see more field, it doesn't reload what you have seen before. Right? Um it just reloads a new field from the last thing you saw. It's just kind of doing um start let's refresh from this point the last user saw, right? That's kind of what this cursor is doing. And so what this limit dot lab does is just that it's telling the user that the table, some maybe when the admin queries the table, right, the job table, you shouldn't actually load anything beyond 500, 1 to 500 at max rows, right, at the same time, so that you will not actually it's actually not good for DBs, right? Imagine somebody queries um for one maybe to 100 million at the same time, 100 million request or query from the DB to maybe to see all the job or to see whatever they want to see, maybe the queue or the status to see it at the same time. It's not a good practice actually, and it has a lot of downside to your database. I'm just paraphrasing all this thing. Actually, I'm very, very, very tired right now. Um, so all this they just happened. So this is a query that fetches doesn't fit anything. So it fetches the queue, status, and cursor at the same time. Why this just fetches, you can filter just to get the queue and you can just filter to get the queue and the status, right? The status is the current state of this job. You know, uh, this model, this model give us access to. So this job have been queued, right? Now this job is running. A worker have taken this job and is running, and the worker is done with this job, is succeeded, right? Or it failed, maybe because of any issue, right? Right. This DQL, dead letter and quarantine, right? This can happen, okay? Or the job was cancelled. So any of these states. So you might query to know the current state of your job, to know the current state of this job actually. right? And that's what this actually gives us. So you query via just the queue and the cursor, right? Uh, like the query it's verbose in nature that you can just query via any column in the table, right? So that's head table, right? Head column in the table. Um, that's what this job listing gives you access to. And just for people that want to, maybe you're building something that um you want to add an admin. So question now is, why did I add this feature here? So I feel like it's something that comes in handy. Right. So I'm not doing any tutorial here. I'm just trying to give you a rundown of what is happening. So I think it's come in handy for people that maybe that want to build a UI of this tool, right? You want to work on the UI to maybe see what is happening in real time, because this tool is majorly an internal tool for apps for companies and infrastructure at the end of the day. So that's what this job list is doing. The job list went on and on. You can just query only the status, just to know the current status of your jobs. And the when you're filtering, you cannot get more than 500 at a time, assuming the max you can go, right? At a go with 500. And they can just query via the cursor only. It's just doing all this next pagination. Maybe give me 1 to 200 or stuff like that, right? Um, or you can just query none. Like just give me the full DB, the table list. Just give me the full table list. That's what this is doing here, right? So if there's any error message at any point, just return it for us. So this is what this basically this job list is doing, and hopefully by the grace of God, I will actually give us a rundown of these other files in this, and mind you, this project is running already. It's working perfectly fine. Right, this project is working perfectly fine. Um, let's see if you can do all the tests for this. Okay, so we have to specify. I don't know if you guys can see this. So you need to specify which tests. These are the tests that are available for us. Um, okay, so these are the tests that are available for us that we created in our test files, to make sure that everything is working as expected. Okay, so these are the test files. And so all these test files are working as we want them to. Um, but we shall do a separate video to test one all we've implemented so far. But sha, this is just basically it. So yeah.